time to flush them out. We don't play it with it.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome in. This is the Hearts of Men podcast, where this week I am your host, Mr. Poor Man's Dr. Phil. Mr. Shift Happens, and along with me, I have my brothers up top with me, as you heard the commentator say, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer, the Mindset Coach. And beneath us is the son of Timothy, the Available Man. And we don't have our other brother, Mr. Unk with the Funk, with us this week, Mr. Martin. But hopefully on next week, he'll be back. How you doing, fellas?
Man, I'm good, man. Had no complaints. Pretty easy work week. Busy, but easy work week. Looking forward to next week. Short work week. You know, we're going to fellowship with some families and eat some food and, enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, man. I'm always good. It's been a week, and it's supposed to be a crazy time at work for a minute, but we're still in high spirits because I get to come home on Fridays, turn on my computer, get behind this camera, and chop it up with some of the coolest brothers I know. Some brothers. I think you pointing the wrong direction. I don't know who Dwayne. Coach pointing at somebody else. Him downstairs.
Over there on my screen.
On my screen, he the other way.
But and it was a tough week, I think, with the fluctuation of the weather being up and down. People getting sniffles, grandkids coming with snotty noses, and being at daycares and school, coming home with things. So, make sure you wash your hands. And, might want to take a little vitamin C and everything like that. But other than that, I'm glad that we also have with us the baddest chat in the land, the chat that thinks for themselves. They make sure they bring impact to the community and have dialogue, even in the midst of what we're doing, what we have going on. They have their conversations. Not that it's a separate conversation, but it's a conversation that enhances what we do here. And I'm appreciative of each and every one of you. And I got some different glasses on, so I'm not even going to try to read that. I'm not going to try to read them names because I'm going to have to look up and down because, these bifocals, they get you. But you know who you are over there in the chat. Each and every one of you add value to us, and we appreciate you. So this topic this week it kind of stumped me. But we gonna rock on, and we gonna talk about this thing that we talk in nauseum about because it's necessary. It's necessary because nowadays people don't necessarily know how to communicate, as we talked about last week, but they don't know how to have the difficult conversations. That's where we're going today. We're going to talk about having difficult conversations and what to do when someone misbehaves. Mm. Jumping straight out there. We jumping into the shallow water first because you can't get deep unless you get shallow. And we're going straight to the first question, fellas. How do I know, or you know, when a difficult conversation is necessary?
I, how do I know if it's necessary? I think some at least for me, a lot of difficult conversations uh, creates difficult moments, and there finds the need to address. But I also think relationship plays a part too, right? If you're at work as a leader, supervisor, or even as a support board, and if disagreement with what's going on, sometimes the right now is not the time, right? Depending on where you work, my my setting is in a customer service area, so I can't address everything right on the spot, because it may not come off professional in front of customers. But knowing that it needs to happen, because what the left and right limits should be. Um, with 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 my brothers, it depends if we're talking, business, like something that we're doing together, or if we're just talking relationally, and it comes off uncomfortable and we have to have that conversation. It may have to be, hey, can we all meet and talk, or it may be, hey, let me call coach one-on-one, because I'm feeling some sort of way. But I think that's when it affects how the relationship flows going forward. Like, I'm not going to be uncomfortable talking with you because something is lingering on me. And so, to me, when it affects the relationship, it is necessary.
Yeah, see, I'll pick up right where you left off because the relationship itself will tell me it's time. But some people may struggle hearing that because then when they hear it, they'll be like, "Well, how's the relationship tell me?" So I will add a little bit more color to it. You will tell me when it's time to have a difficult conversation. What I mean when I say that, your behavior will tell me, like what you're doing. Boundaries that have already been established, or just common, I don't know what I tend to call like common adult courtesy. The things that we believe that most adults should have. Yeah. So I think all of those things exist. The relationship, your behavior, and common adult courtesy will let me know.
And like you continued, I'm just going to continue on because you're saying the relationship, and I agree there. And I think that when something affects the peace of the relationship or the individuals within, uh, whether it's the peace or the productivity of his workplace, when something affects how the relationship is supposed to normally move and maneuver, then a tough conversation has to be had. When a difficult conversation comes, it's not just, oh, it reached a boiling point, because if it waits to a boiling point, then it's been going on for a while and you didn't want to have it, so you avoided it. So it may come across as me being mad or something like that. But when I'm looking at the relationship and I'm saying, man, I just I want to say something, but I don't think I can. No, you should. I think when you go away from it, there becomes another problem on top of what you already have. Number two, Daddy trying to figure his camera out, I think. What should I do to prepare before having difficult conversations?
I think the preparation of difficult conversations happen long before the opportunity to have difficult conversations present itself. So, what should I do to prepare? There's a lot of self work that I have to do. being able to have those conversations to such a degree that points are being delivered in a fashion that it can be heard and understood. We don't necessarily behave like children, yelling and screaming and calling people outside of their name, right? But we have those conversations to such a degree that we're relaying the facts about what actually happened, and then we can actually go back and forth from there. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Do the preparation on yourself beforehand so that you can have the difficult conversation and recognize that in the midst of the conversation, the person I'm talking to is not an adversary. Like, we're in a relationship. That's why we're having this difficult conversation. In most cases, if we weren't in a relationship, would I really spend the time to have a difficult conversation with you? No, probably not, because I wouldn't be spending time with you at all afterwards. So do the work on yourself, right? Work on emotional intelligence, work on your ability to articulate clearly, work on regulating your emotions and all of those great things. And I think that kind of sets the stage for it.
I love the emotional intelligence piece, because one of the things that I find common with difficult conversations, even especially when you're the person that decides, hey, we need to have this difficult conversation, is being able to receive the things you weren't expecting to happen, right? Um, and I say that because sometimes I may have it played out in my head. I'm coming to saying, I'm gonna lay this out. I'm gonna let them know, this is what the problem is, and then boom, you get hit with something you wasn't expecting in response that causes you to now take accountability, but you weren't mentally prepared for accountability to be taken on your behalf, right? So I'm there, I'm there overall with maturity, and so yes, it definitely starts with you. Um, I think there is now when I hear this term, initially I think of being being a leader in the military, like preparation for a difficult conversation. We call those 40 56s. We call those a counseling session. And so yeah, this preparation that needs to be prepared, because when you're laying out paperwork on the professional side, you have to make sure that the account is accurate. You have to go and get the facts. Don't just come spilling out things that you heard or things that you feel, but the facts must be on the table, because without the facts, that's an easy way to get blindsided or have the tables turned on you, because now you came to me with unfounded information and asking me to take accountability for something that did not take place.
Yeah, and I like where you went with the 4856 counseling statements. I think even in that realm, you clarify the goal in which you're trying to push forward. Like, you ain't just sitting down to be sitting down chit chatting. We're sitting down to have a conversation. So when it's a difficult conversation, hey, I need to talk to you about blah blah split. I'm not talking about chickens and what the tigers and lions and bears did. We're talking about this, being specific, so that we can actually, I don't want to catch you off guard. I don't want you, once I bring something up, you go into a defensive posture. I want to talk to you about this. And I like the emotional intelligence aspect of it, because some people consider themselves emotionally intelligent, yet they're always relying on their emotions when they communicate. So that can become an additional problem when trying to have difficult conversations. When you have two emotional people trying to have a conversation, it becomes an argument. So clarifying what's about to be spoken about, and also, if you're going into it knowing what you want to say, you might want to jot down some bullet points in your head. You might want to jot down some things. Yeah, I want to target this, because a lot of times when people have communication like that and it's difficult, they will, well, you did this or you did that. What about this? And what? No. We gonna hit this one first, and because any conversation, there has to be someone to lead it. But what happens is sometimes we allow our emotions and our behavior to lead the conversation, instead of just going directly to what we're talking about, trying to get this to be the catalyst for what's being spoken about.
Yeah, I like the fact that you brought in the 4856 as well. For those who don't know what that means, it's a counseling statement. It's pretty similar whether you're in the military, whether you're in civilian sector. It's going to some recalibration needs to happen. And let's be honest, we don't necessarily counsel. We don't only counsel for bad reasons as well. We counsel for good reasons as well, also. But there's a thing that governs that 4856 that we're about to talk, that counseling session that we're getting ready to talk. So there is an initial counseling that took place. That initial counseling, whether you're in the civilian sector, whether you're in the military, that initial counseling is the go-to when it comes down to any subsequent counseling or any subsequent performance evaluation that takes place. So as long as we talked about it in the beginning, and I'm stressing this point, as long as we talked about it in the beginning, I'm gonna say it for the third time. As long as we talked about it in the beginning, then that sets the conditions for behavior moving forward, that sets the conditions for our expectations of ourselves moving forward. And then when those counseling sessions happen, it's generally going to be in relation to you violating the agreement that we had in the beginning or you doing it really good. So I want to make sure I say that because I don't see relationships as being any different. The problem is that we don't necessarily have detailed conversations in the beginning. It's like you look good, you smell good, all that great stuff. We go together. That's it. I bought you a drink. Let's go. That's all it is, right? And so at the end of the day, now we're in a situation and there are no rules, there are no guidelines, there are no governing things that govern this relationship. And then when we do, we have to have this difficult conversation. One person says, I don't understand why, you're not understanding what I'm saying. And the other person's like, I don't even understand why this is such a big deal. Simply because you didn't have the conversation in the beginning.
Exactly. And let's run over to the question. And we had a question in the chat. Miss Keys says, are emotions absent of conversations?
I don't know if I understand, but what I'm understanding, no, because I think today, well, can be. I say that way because I think sometimes we think talking is conversation, right? And I think sometimes emotion can lead to word vomit and just random word vomit. You just spilling out all your emotions without making a point or getting to the point or leaving room to get to a conclusion. I think sometimes emotions can lead to that. But I don't think just organically emotions are absent of conversation. I think it can lead to a bad conversation, not just a difficult conversation, but a bad conversation. Because if we're just going in circles because your feelings are not being met with my responses, I don't see how that's my issue. But it don't mean I'm not going to conversate with you. I'm just not going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, I agree. Before I respond, everybody hit that like button, please, and we greatly appreciate that. Regardless of whether you're on TikTok, I'm not TikTok. Oh Lord Jesus, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or whether you're on LinkedIn, please hit that like button. We greatly appreciate you guys joining us today. To this question, are emotions absent? And she said, she meant in conversations. Are emotions absent in conversations? No, absolutely not. I think it's a virtual impossibility to consider emotions are absent in conversations. I think the articulation of and the perception of is the challenge that we have because some things you think I need to be extremely emotional about, I may not display that emotion at the level of your expectation. That does not mean I don't have emotions. That just means that this thing that we're talking about does not move me to the space that it has moved you. That's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think we were doing, and I do not believe that she is talking about all of these things that I'm talking about right now, but I'm just covering them because of this question, right? I think a lot of times we will do well spending more time governing our emotions as opposed to judging another person's emotions. If we do that, then I think what ends up happening or what won't happen is that we be in a space of emotional hijacking, right? A lot of times emotions will hijack a conversation, and then we got to no resolution, no understanding whatsoever. And we left the conversation totally without zero understanding. And then eventually we're going to have to come back and have this exact same conversation. So again, I just want to say that I really love this question, but again, it's impossible for emotions to be absent of a conversation.
Exactly. I think that emotions are either expressed, suppressed, regulated, or unmanaged. So you have them either way because you feel a certain type of way. I remember in the military, uh, like I'm a person. When I feel it, if I feel a certain way, it's on my face. And the first sergeant, what's the face? He was foreign. What's with the face? I'm like, I don't agree. You want me to sit up here like a robot and be stern, and that's not how I communicate. So when I if I'm communicating with my face to you, you see a certain body language or something like that. That's not I'm not in my emotion, but I'm showing that hey, I can still manage this thing. I'm not acting out. I'm not flipping and everything like that. But emotions are always present. It's just whether or not you regulate your emotions. And that leads us right into question 3. How do I communicate how I feel without sounding confrontational?
I think we just talked about it a little bit. Move your emotions to the side. Without sounding confrontational, move your emotions to the side. Now, on the flip side, I'm gonna give you. Now y'all know my take, so just pray for me, right? But when it comes to brothers, I'm gonna give you one moment of me matching your energy when your emotion starts causing you to get disrespectful. Because I'm not gonna argue with no grown man, right? So let's just get that out the way. I'm gonna match your and that when I match it, it's not matching it to go back and forth. It's to say, hey, let's bring this back down to a respectful tone, right? And if we can't, y'all, I don't even need to, y'all know me. It's like, let's just leave it alone or let's go out back. We got two options. But we could leave it alone and come back when you can regulate or control your emotions. Because now we've lost communication once we allow, like, and I think I like the term Coach used, which was emotional hijacking. When we allow the emotions to hijack the conversation, I think that's when it gets confrontational. Because you said something that bothered me, and emotionally I'm responding in a hostile manner because now I'm protecting my emotions. I'm not addressing the facts no longer.
Yep. I don't mean to have a short response for this. How do I communicate? How do I communicate how I feel without sounding confrontational? I would say learn how not to sound confrontational. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but that's it. But the other side of it is that your posture matters, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times, what we tend to do is we allow our emotions to get the best of us, and then our emotions drive the behavior that we're displaying. So, the posture that we're displaying in conversation actually matters. Also, the words that I'm using as well matters. Our tone matters. Using certain words when addressing another person actually matters. Those are all things of confrontation. That's why I said the person that you're talking to, they're not the adversary. They're the person that you're in a relationship with. You need to keep that in mind the entire time that you're having the conversation. Let's be completely honest. If you're in a relationship with a person, 9 times out of 10, and I say it that way because there is that one time, 9 times out of 10, you did not give birth to that person. So there is no need to get excessively loud when talking to another adult. That's just how I see it. Now, when you do not be surprised if that person shows you that they have the ability to match energies with you. And then you realize that you find yourself in a situation that you may not necessarily want to be in. So I think it's important that we understand how not to be confrontational first. If I am not a confrontational person, then I can have communication without necessarily being confrontational and still get my point across. So that's just my point there.
And I think when it comes to being confrontational, if I'm already in that state of being confrontational, I'm not ready to communicate. I'm not ready to have this conversation. or I feel attacked, or so now we go more into the feelings versus emotions. So now you have two people that are more they're butting heads rather than communicating. I think that how I can work on that beforehand is we got to be able to do the work on us. I think that's why over here we talk about communication a lot, because people know how to talk and they think they know how to communicate. Just because I can say how I feel, I can say what bothers me. But when something returns to them, it's like, oh, well, you can't say nothing to me, or you're going to little boy or little girl someone when you're talking to them. So you already, as I think Coach was talking about, you're posturing yourself as if I'm the teacher. You just sit here and listen, and you're talking to an equal. But so as to not do that, sometimes you just got to learn how to talk to people. Some people talk to people as if they are beneath them. Some people will talk to you. If you say anything wrong, you mess up a word or whatever, they target it and they, well, you said this. Well, you know what the heck I was saying. You knew what I meant. And then they want to focus directly on that word versus what I'm trying to convey during this conversation. And Lisa had a second part to that question earlier. Are we saying emotions are bad or good?
And so I'm not saying that this was addressed to me, but I feel like it was addressed to me.
It was. You be tripping.
And
I'm just kidding.
yeah, no, and not in a bad way, but that's why I jumped out there first on this one, because I'm just, when it comes to having a productive conversation, yes. I'm gonna say oh yes, she said bad over. She gave options, not a yes or no. Yes, I'm gonna say it's bad. I think sometimes, like for instance, there can be a chance to being too high, right? Because I know when we say bad or good, sometimes we're thinking of good emotion, bad emotion, but sometimes we can be too high on something that we too fast and create the wrong energy to get the not the response, but to get the end goal that we need. And sometimes you can be too low, right? So I think just coming into the conversation with not without emotions, because I think that sounds like don't have emotions. You have them, right? But don't let it drive the conversation. And to me, that's just the end state right there. So yes, I can be excited, or yes, I could be frustrated, but no, that shouldn't be the determining factor of how the conversation goes.
So to answer the question, are we saying emotions are bad or good? No, we're not saying that at all. That's, to me, that's the answer. Now, at the end of the day, like I said before, it is virtually impossible to have a conversation without, person having emotions. Let's just be honest. Georgia play football, Georgia win. I got emotions about that. I'm talking to somebody about a Georgia win. I got some emotions behind that. Georgia lose, I got some emotions behind it. I don't even want to talk to nobody when Georgia lose. Y'all know that already. But that's just what it is. There's some people I will talk to, but that's just it. I'm saying it lightly, but I think we need to understand it. Like Gaddy said, there's a range of emotions that we have, right? Your job is not to be all the way up here and not all the way down here. You have to figure out how to be in this range right here when you're having conversations. So I don't think anyone is saying that emotions are bad or good. They just are what they are.
I agree wholeheartedly. So no, they aren't bad or good. I think they can depend on how you use them. I think emotions are good as signals. It lets me know, hey, I'm feeling a certain type of way about how you're talking to me, about what's being said or whatever. And it also lets me know, hey, I might need a break from this because right now I'm about to flip this table over. So so it's a signal to how I am feeling internally. And now what happens is it can be bad, as Gaddy was saying, when it drives my behavior. If it drives my behavior, now it's totally bad because now I'm leaning on my emotions, and my emotions aren't built on facts. My emotions are built on how I feel in the moment. So yes, it can be good, it can be bad, depending. If it is good as a signal to let you know where you are, how you're feeling in the moment, and it can be bad when it drives how you're moving. Next question, please. How do you how do you handle when a person doesn't want to take a break that you need when a conversation turns hostile? Whoa, that's
Well,
tough.
I'll jump out there on this one. Um, I would say, first and foremost, if a conversation turns hostile, there's some more conversations that need to be had, not just the conversation that we're having right here. There's definitely some conversations that need to be had because I should not be in a relationship, and it's just my opinion now. I should not be in a relationship with a person who has the ability to turn hostile towards me. That's a serious concern. Now, if I'm in a heated conversation and I ask for a break, and that's the key, I ask for a break. I don't demand a break. I ask for a break and then I tell them that can we come back and revisit this in 10, 15 minutes when tempers calm down and they don't want to take a break, then at that point I'm going to take a break anyway. And at the end of the day, when I take a break, I'm probably leaving the house and I'll be back when I get back. I'm just saying the truth at that point. Because, like I said, if it turns hostile, there is no telling how far it's going to go. And if they're hostile and they're trying to handcuff you in that conversation, you need to take a break. You need to vacate the premises. You need to, and I will go as far as say, go get a mediator when you before you come back. Come back with somebody that can mediate that conversation. I got it. It's not a very pop because you know how we do. What goes on in our house stays in our house. No, that's dangerous in this particular scenario.
I laugh because I swear I'm the same way. I promise you. Don't give me a break when I need a break because we going okay. We got a break because like you said, I'm not just gonna walk to the other room. I'm gonna have to exit. I'm gonna have to leave. I'm not gonna be in this house because if you chase me and continue to talk or yell when I'm trying to regulate what I'm feeling at the moment, you're gonna be angry at my response. So let me just go. Let me come back. I think I did. I think I did that exactly what you said, Coach. I think one time not one time, a couple times. I had to bounce, and I was like, "Hey, bro, let me holler at you. Maybe you might need to come holler at." I think one time you did come over here, bro,
Mhm.
and because it just wasn't. And 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 here's the thing, too. I would say this, you know, and Coach, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When you take a break, at least for me, I find this to be true. Let's ask the question: why do I need the break? Why is what was said triggering this emotion the way it is, right? And then how do I respond to that first to myself so that I can get back into this conversation? Because it's not going to change the fact that that's how they feel or that's what they believe happened or that's what they want to get across, because you took a break. That same statement is going to be there when you get back. And so why did that trigger me? Why did that take me to where it took me to where I need this break? I know for me, for some time, I don't like having conversations that I got to repeat myself because I'm making this statement or this point to what you brought out, and you're circling like I didn't, and you want me to just because you want me to give you the response you want. I'm not going to do that. So that to me, that's a triggering point for me when it comes to heated conversation. If you, I had NCOs that used to do that. If you want me to give you the response you want, just tell me what to say then. Right. I'm not saying I'm gonna say it, but yeah, like at this point, just tell me what to say because you're not gonna accept what I said. But I'm a big proponent and ask yourself why.
There's one key word in this question, and I think it's key. It's hostile. Hostile to me is it begins at yelling, calling people out their name, things of that nature. But it doesn't end there. right? So that's the change in the conversation. If it's a difficult conversation, grow up, stay in the conversation, have the conversation, even though it feels uncomfortable. When you become emotionally flooded, then ask for a break and then come back and have the adult conversation. But just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's hostile. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we differentiate
Yeah.
between the idea of difficult conversation and hostility, because hostility means that it has the potential to do harm. And if it has the potential to do harm, we need to take a time out. And I'm an advocate of timeouts, but we have to take timeouts the right way. Taking a timeout is like telling the other person, like, look, we need to like take a time out from this conversation. Let's come back and do this again in like 10, 15 minutes so we can calm down. Go walk around the house, go drink some water, go do whatever it is, do some push-ups, do whatever it is you got to do, right? Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then come back to the conversation. But just breaking off from the conversation, not saying anything, that's not a timeout. That's telling the other person, like, hey, well, this conversation, even though we're going back and forth and exchanging words, this conversation isn't even worth my time anymore. I'm leaving. Bye. That's not a timeout.
And yes, I hope I agree with everything y'all just said, because I think that when you look at hostility, hostility levels up. At no point is hostility gonna level down. It's not gonna be, I'm hostile now, I'm ready to hug you. No, and hostility brings forth a level of violence to it, whether it's in the talk, whether it's in the emotions, whether it's in how I'm interacting with you, because now comes the name calling, now comes the cursing, now comes everything I'm trying to do to get my get back, as Medea said. So I think when we're looking at the hostile environment, I try not to have hostile conversations. I try not to, because I don't like where it brings me. If it's trying to bring me out of who I am, that's why when you in relationships, you don't get in a relationship and then 2 years down the line find out this person was hostile. You find that out as you're getting to know the person. Don't come in here talking about, oh, he's so cute, she's so fine, and then next thing you know, you got this large circle under your eye talking about, but he loved me. No, he don't. He loved you twice last month. So no, that's not something that a relationship should have. I shouldn't want to put my hands on you. You should want to put your hands on me. But if we having a difficult conversation, yeah, I may not want to converse about this thing. I may not want to talk about it, but I should give you the courtesy. I should give you the respect because of the relationship to say, hey, we got to talk about this. This is something that needs to happen. I don't like it. You don't like it, but it needs to take place. And at no time should there be any hostility, because when there's hostility, violence is the secondary hand of hostility that comes. So, no, if it's for me, you getting hostile, I'm putting my hands up, I'm done. Once hostility comes in, because it becomes a combatant thing.
Can I do my Uncle Junior impression for a second and ask a question? Uh, because and let me explain why I'm asking this question in 2 seconds, right? Because we often talk about how certain things kind of feed us a false narrative of things, right? And so it makes me glad that y'all addressed the term hostile, right? Because I think we believe a hostile conversation is the same thing as a passionate conversation, like terminology, right? Because we see on TV passionate conversations turn into just like this great love scene and everything just perfect for that moment because the passion was so high. Like, it sounds stupid, but that's why I'm addressing it, because to me it is, right? Like, that's one of the things that I think that at least our generation has taken from what they see on TV. You're not going to argue your way into a better relationship or get hot, have a hostile argument all the way into a great passionate moment. What is there a difference between those terminologies? A hostile conversation, passionate.
I think you can be passionate about something, but when hostility comes in, hostility it means that I'm looking to win by any means necessary. If I'm passionate about something, I can be passionate and it's not affecting me in a way that I'm looking to your detriment. Hostility means I'm trying to win. And if I got to roll over you, so be it, because I'm trying to win by any means necessary versus I'm trying to gain. I'm excited about this, or I'm so into this that it's something that, you know, brings me life versus a hostile act is, I ain't never seen a hostile takeover where somebody was smiling on the other end.
Yeah, again, posture matters. So when we're talking hostile, you know when someone has a hostile posture. Being passionate, they don't have the same type of posture. It's more of a plead about a thing when a person is passionate. But when a person is hostile, you know it's a bit. There is no confusion. Like you, let's come on. We all dudes up here. You know when a dude is hostile. You know what I'm saying? You know when a woman is hostile towards you. That's totally different. Like you can't even roll your eyes at me. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. That's hostile to me. We need to have a talk about that.
I'm with you, Coach, because I'm a person where it burns me up if I say something. I like, Gaddy, hey, Coach, if whoever it is, I hate the word "what" if it comes behind me asking something. I'm asking for attention. Whoever say what, because am I bothering you? Like that what? It just makes my blood boil. So it's like one of those things. Like, okay, I'm gonna come back to this because I'm about to, be
Wait, did you just get emotional about being
Oh
emotional?
yeah, I hate
You
that.
definitely did.
I
Yeah.
heard him do the Luther Vandross just now, bro. You heard it?
Ooh.
You fool. Hey, but that's one of those things where it's a trigger for me, because to me it's a sign of disrespect, and I think when you leave disrespect unchecked, it continues. See, people don't like to be checked. Everybody needs to be checked at some time. When you do something and you overstep a boundary, I got to check that boundary. If I don't check that boundary, now I set a new standard. Now you're going to go above that and you're going to continue. And where it didn't bother you this time, no, it bothered me then. I didn't say nothing. See, once you don't say nothing, something, that's a problem. So you should be able to speak your mind without disrespecting the other person. Let's see. What is RBN? There you go. How would you address someone who is a professional counselor or friend and in a casual setting to you, talks to you as if you are their patient, Coach?
It's a very slippery slope here.
Mhm.
Number one, there are some things that need to be understood that I can't extract from this question. Number one, the professional counselor and friend, i.e., casual, and I'm assuming this is just friend, like me, Roland Gaddy. We friends, right? Um, and then casual setting, let's just say we all sitting on the back dock, just talking and whatever the case may be. That's a casual setting to me. Well, I think it's two ways to look at it. Number one, I think sometimes a person can have a job and then a person can actually be called to do a thing. If they have a job, that's their job. That's 9 to 5. That's all that is. When I get off at 5, I leave the job at work. But if I'm called to do the thing, it is virtually impossible to separate Dwayne from coach. I'm gonna say it again. It is virtually impossible to separate Dwayne from coach. You get Dwayne, you get coach. You get coach, you get Dwayne. You will find that he is the exact same person on the mic as he is in person, as whatever the case may be. So that's what I would. That's where I will start off. We need to understand who the individual is, and I know this can be difficult sometimes. Also, the other side of it is that the individual needs to be forthcoming. This is just my job and my profession. When I get off, this is who I am. Or look, this is not just a job or a profession to me. This is who I really am, right? I pattern my life after this. So, when you understand the two differences there, now that can actually give some light to this question. Because with that being said, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want to be your patient. Well, what makes you think you're my patient? That's generally because I get that sometimes. Don't get me wrong. What makes you think you're my patient? Like, help me to understand that. Because first and foremost, there are two things that identify you as a patient. There's a contract that exists, and there's some money that's been exchanged. If those two things did not take place, then you're not my patient. However, if I give you anything that I would normally give my patient, you might want to accept it. You might want to count it as grace. Because at the end of the day, you're getting, I like to joke when I say stuff like this, you're getting free chicken. So it's like, I get this question, but I want you to look at it from another perspective as well. Now, if that's all they do, I'll say this as well. If that's all they do, quote what the American Psychological Association say. The DSM-5 says this. According to this, maladaptive behaviors look like this, right? If that's all they do, then you might want to recognize, like, do I want to be that close to this person because that's all they talk about? So I think it's two sides to this that has to be considered. I'm not necessarily saying your question is wrong. I think this is a great question, but I also think I know you, Robin. Stop that. I think there's two sides to look at it, right? And I'm not saying that this question is wrong. I think this is a great question, but I also think we need to understand who this person really is as well.
Yeah. For me, the hard part about this question is knowing the depth of what you're talking about. Like, I feel like a part of this is situational, and we're not privy to the specifics, right? And so everything that we say is just free flowing and I was about to say expectation, wrong word, and exaggeration, because we don't know what actually happened that caused this question, right? So, in saying that, if coach start giving me professional advice, I'm gonna listen. Right? If my friend is a counselor or a therapist or something like that, and I'm talking about a situation, when we're talking as friends, and because I know my brothers, they're if that happens, it's because he recognizes something that puts me in danger of moving the wrong way. And so I feel if coach ever steps out and said, well, according to whatever them things he quoted, because I don't know what they were, I'm gonna shut up for a second, because he's been not even just formally educated, but he's been practiced in using it. So I'm gonna listen to what he said. Okay, what did he recognize? And you ain't even got to be a professional, right, at this certain thing, because I think we've all done it to each other. Ro's quick to catch you when you're talking. I remember telling him a story one time, and I'm just trying to be a friend, and because how dare, and he goes, yeah, because you was in your emotions. That's why you did that. I ain't at you that. I know I was in my emotions, but him pointing that out in that moment made me realize how petty my response was. So, but in order for me to give that flip side, I really have to know what the depth is, because I don't have that experience. I don't think coach ever coaches me just because that's his profession, and he just goes, no, this is what you're going to do, and blah, blah. But I feel if he does it, it's because he's trying to keep me from taking a wrong turn.
I'm loving it, because I'm with coach, because you can't separate who I am from who I am. It's just who I am. I think that some people have jobs, and I think one thing that I take to heart when people call me this, when they call me brother, I don't care about all that other stuff, sergeant this and the AP and all that other stuff. Yeah, you can call me all these titles, but when you call me brother, to me, that's relational. That says I care about what I say to you. I care about you. So when I give you something, it's from here. It ain't just me saying, okay, you got to do this because I'm this whatever. I'm saying this because of the love that I have for the relationship that we have. So if someone is making you their patient, I can't really speak to that, because it's a lot of information that's left out. So, but for those of us that look at the person and the calling being one, and we talk to people as such, that's where you got to say, okay, is the information valid? What they're telling me, and then hey, if coach giving me some information and it's free, I ain't got to sit up there and cash out. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna write it down so I can remember for next time. Because the next time he might say, hey, you need to make an appointment. But if I ain't got to make no appointment because that's my guy, hey, I'm taking that to heart and I'm moving forward with it.
Can I tell you, I love chicken, but something about that free chicken, boy, finger licking good. But just I would say this. I think about it like this, right? I don't know what your profession is, Miss Robin, but if I begin to have to speak and we're having a conversation, even if you just listen in here and we start speaking in the realm of your profession and we say something that may not be correct, as a professional, you're gonna respond with, well, actually, blah blah blah, and bring that correction forward. I look at it like that. So when we talk about not separating the person from the calling, but even from the profession, even from the job, like as a 42 off, I used to do that often. I hear people say, oh yeah, because by Ray, you gotta have don't do that. What you need is this, because you're about to set that soldier up for failure. You're gonna turn in some paperwork, I'm gonna kick back. So this is what it needs, even though I'm not in my office and we just talking in the smoke pit or whatever. That because that's what I do, I'm not gonna allow bad information or bad behavior concerning that go forward. Oh, if that makes sense. I hope that.
I thought Coach was about to say something for you. Okay. Next question, please. What do you do if the other person gets defensive during the conversation?
One of the things I cannot stand, somebody did it to me a few years ago, and I don't think we ever even had a joking conversation because a certain level of petty that when somebody say, you mad? Boy, don't antagonize me. Because I promise you, like, the level I'm gonna go low to respond is gonna be so I'm just gonna exit the conversation. Like, but it says what to do, not what not to do. But if someone get defensive during the conversation, I think that is my thing. I'm very careful at that point not to become an antagonist. If I'm going to identify it, because I'm starting with the baseline coach set out. We have a relationship. And that's the most important element in this whole ordeal. That's the reason we're having the conversation. So I'm careful not to damage the relationship on the way to the goal of this conversation. So once you start getting defensive or whatever, I'm gonna kind of draw back and let you sit with it, because I feel like, and I'm only speaking for me. Let me say it. When I get defensive, it's for one or two reasons. It's because it's right, or it's because I feel like you're attacking my character unjustly, and I'm really not finna fight you over my character. I'm just not gonna let you continue to demolish it. So I will give you time after I feel like you're defensive, because maybe you feel attacked for a reason and you need to sit on that and then come back so we can address. Because if there's a small possibility that somebody brought an issue to you and it's true. I think that's something that we all got. Nobody ever thinks that I'm the problem, but role coach might say, hey, Gaddy, we need to talk. And what they say just might be true. And sometimes that's the reason why I feel attacked. And I need to address that.
Very unpopular response. I'm gonna stand right there at the door and keep knocking on the door. Most people get defensive when they are protecting a stronghold. If you are unaware that you are guarding a stronghold, then you are going to keep guarding it. So at that point, when you get defensive and then I go the other direction, right, and allow your defense mechanism to work, then that stronghold remains. But if I stay right there where I was at, where that defensiveness started, and I start asking you questions about your defensive posture, now you have the opportunity to learn something about yourself. If you take the opportunity to learn something about yourself, then you can actually recognize what that stronghold is, and then we can grow from that. However, if you continue to be defensive about being defensive, then I realize that you're not ready to grow based upon the awareness of that stronghold that you are still trying to protect. And then whatever we have at that particular point, I recognize that this is a lane that we can't go now, because what I'm not going to do is keep fighting against you for something that you are protecting. Now, again, if we're in a relationship, and I got to keep saying this, which means that we actually care about one another. That's what people in relationship do. And this is all relationships, right? If you are trying to protect something and somebody kind of knocks on the door of that thing and you're like, what? Right? Keep knocking. Because now it's like, well, why did you respond in that manner? What happened just now? So now again, they have the opportunity to learn. And if they are, at that point to where they're ready to reveal it, open it up and let the gates down, then they have a golden opportunity to overcome that stronghold that they may have been protecting for years, and nobody cared enough to stick around and help them go through it.
I like what you guys said. I think you acknowledge their feelings. Don't sit up there and placate it. Don't sit up there and blow past it. I don't think you leave the conversation. Some people would just leave, and as Coach said, that could be a defense mechanism to make you get out their face. I think you stay focused on the issue. See, some people will focus on the behavior right then. Stay focused on the issue, not the reaction, and then redirect the conversation back to what we're talking about. We're talking about this. We're not talking about that. This is what we're talking about. I'm not attacking you. Don't match energy. If me, I'm thinking I'm the person which I may be emotionally intelligent. That means that when you act a certain way, I don't have to match your energy. I keep my energy because my energy says, okay, I'm still focused on the issue. I'm still talking about the conversation, not about your feelings, not about you being emotional. I'm talking about the issue at hand. And that's where, because if you avoid it or whatever, and I've done it, I'm sure everybody has at some point where you didn't want to talk about something. You're like, I don't want to talk about it. And you buffaloed your way through and nothing ever was solved. But during this time, hey, that's when you got to press forward. Press forward about the issue, not about your feelings, not about your reaction, but about the issue. Because I'm gonna bring you out of that feelings thing, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this right here. And stay there, and then the person can see, okay, yeah, I was overreacting, or I did do this because of that. And then that's where growth comes. And that's where growth comes within the relationship, because now it's like, okay, he called me out on my bull crap. He didn't even let that slide. So that's with that question. Make sure we don't have. Let's see. Next question. How can I stay calm when and if the conversation gets emotional?
Well, this kind of goes back to the whole emotional intelligence piece, right? This is the pre-work that you must do before getting into these type of conversations. I think there's simple techniques that you can do. You can practice deep breathing. You can take your time and respond to the question. You don't have to be so quick to answer. I think a lot of times what we want to do is be quick to pop off, because that's what we do. We want to pop off, right? But take your time. Don't be so quick to give a response. Just take a deep breath, think about what you're saying, and then say it in response to what you actually heard. Even if, like, I know we can be in certain places and somebody says a kind of like a sideways comment. You don't necessarily have to respond back at the same level or the same energy that they comment. You can take your time and respond back in a fashion that honors your character. And I think that's the key. You are, and I can only talk about me, right? I am an ambassador. So if I am an ambassador, I make sure that my behavior reflects that who I represent, not ever forgetting that piece. I don't go back to what I used to do years ago, whatever the case may be. I make sure that I respond in such a way that when others see me, they're like, man, you handled that really good. And I don't do it looking for them to say it. I do it for them to say, hey, I see what you did. Can you show me how you did that? That way now I can point them to the source to where I learned how to actually do that. So I think that's important. Number one, you stay calm by taking a deep breath. Sometimes you do deep breathing. Sometimes you may count real slow. Don't be so quick to respond. And then recognize that you are an ambassador of something or someone, and make sure that that is always who you put forward when you respond.
I love that. And I'm gonna steal that word because I was going that direction. But ambassador, I think we are all ambassadors, right? It's just of who we are ambassadors of is the question. And the scary part is you may not even know who you're an ambassador of, but your actions will show, right? So I think it is very careful that we handle people carefully, right? Because you got emotional, don't mean I need to get emotional with you. It doesn't mean that I need to because you got hostile. And I think, like you said, hostility don't grow hostile. But even if you get hostile, don't mean I have to get hostile with you. I can keep my temperament. I can stay. I what we say even kill. I can stay in that even kill space and not allow you to take me to another level. That's a choice. That is definitely a choice. And so you got to keep your mind on the goal, keep your mind on the relationship. And I'm one of those. And here's the thing for me: if I make a decision uh, that I'm not going to, not going to continue this relationship, I'm going to discontinue. We're going to have the conversation is real short to me. I don't have, I don't really because what am I looking for? Am I looking for you to convince me not to? Because there's a reason why I got to that conclusion. I'm going to express that with you. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. I think it's time for me to move this way, by however it goes. And I'm not gonna go here. Well, you should have. Well, if why are we gonna argue and sever, you know, whatever cordialness we have? Why can't we go our separate ways and keep it calm? You know, and so I think that goes back to that maturity level. So I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep my eyes on whatever the goal is, on whatever the prize is, on whatever the relationship. What's the importance of this conversation, and I'm gonna move accordingly.
And I think that I've been accused by people who were in their emotions that I'm too nonchalant, and I'm like, you don't want to see me chalant, like because I've done work, I've had therapy, I worked on my little anger issues, and now it's like, man, I'm like, and I'm thinking, hold up, you're saying I'm nonchalant because I'm not matching your energy. Because I like to keep things calm and talk. I don't like to get hyper. I don't like to. It's not a sport. It's not a sporting event or anything like that. It's a conversation, and in the conversation, I want to be heard. I want to listen, and I want to articulate what my thoughts are. You want to articulate what your feelings are. You want to articulate how you feel in the moment of what I did, this, that, and other. If we're talking about an issue, let's talk about said issue. And if I'm trying to stay here, don't sit up there and try to drag me over here and think that it's going to be a good thing if I come over there. So I think that when we say how does one stay calm, I think you do the pre-work, as Coach said. Because if you don't do the pre-work, you're liable to be toxic. You're liable to be volatile. You're liable to be hostile. And when you're liable to be all those things, the relationship is liable to not flourish because it's damaged on each end because you throw some damage, I'll throw some damage. I'm throwing darts, you're throwing darts. Now it's like, hold up, when we supposed to be speaking in psalms and hymns, we speaking in cussing. We're speaking in threats. We're speaking damaging behavior, and it damages not only the relationship, but everyone around that's in the vicinity of said relationship, whether that be children, whether that be friends and coworkers. It's all damaged by how, because people are like, oh, I can't say nothing because this and that, and people see those things.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. First and foremost, let me give a shout out to Miss Robin. We greatly appreciate you, greatly appreciate your support on this channel. And for everybody who is listening, any donations that are given to this channel, it actually is recycled back into the channel so that we can continue to give you the support that we actually do. So again, thank you, Miss Robin, and you'll greatly appreciate it and continue to come. We greatly appreciate having you here. So I like that. I like what everybody's saying. I also seen somebody said that, everybody's entitled to feel how they feel. And that's a true statement. Everybody is entitled to feel how they feel. And what we have to do is really understand what our emotions are and what they are supposed to do. I think a lot of times we believe that if this person feel a particular type of way because I watch Georgia football on Saturdays, then I have a responsibility to do something. No, I appreciate the fact that you share with me how you feel. I understand. And I believe that's how you feel. I understand. Okay. But I'll talk to you when the game go off. Like I think too many times, and I'm not saying that that's what they meant, but I think too many times we hear it as a blanket statement. So a person has a feeling about a thing, now that means I must do. No, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. And if you don't believe me, go to work on Monday and tell your supervisor, say, I feel like I shouldn't have to work the rest of the week and still get paid for the week.
Yeah, you there?
Work out.
Okay.
And see how that works out. Because I think at the end of the day, we'll recognize something huge. In one setting, we behave a particular type of way, and then in another setting, we change the parameters of how we behave.
Oh yeah, I like that. I'm with y'all. I'm with y'all right there.
Let's roll right into the next one. How do I set boundaries without coming off as rude?
I feel like Coach gonna take part of my answer. So if I come off as rude for setting a boundary, I don't think I'm the problem. How do I come off as rude? I don't think the person setting the boundary is the problem. Now, maybe if I came off rude, if I did come off rude because I was being rude, maybe then the problem is I didn't set the boundary until the boundary was crossed. And so now I'm moving in emotion. A lot of this is like, it sounds like we keep doubling back to emotional intelligence, but is that not what severs communication? All right. And so I'm rude when I tell you not to speak to me or not to do this or whatever the case may be, because like we said, we didn't do the pre-work. We built this relationship off of having fun and talking about whatever we're talking about, and oh, you're so beautiful, and oh, he does this, he opens the car doors, he paid for this. But have you talked about what you do the don'ts? Have you talked about what your boundaries are? Have you articulated this thing in the beginning? And if it's your first time setting a boundary, why are you being rude with it? Why are you being aggressive with it? It's the first time you said it. How can I have an expectation of you not crossing the boundary? I'm learning, especially dealing with a lot of young soldiers daily. I am learning. Some people weren't taught what I was taught. If I'm handing you something, I'm handing it to you. I'm not going to place it on the counter and expect you to pick it up and then hand it back to me. The devil is a lie. You put something on the counter, I'm going to put it right back on the counter. But they look at me as rude, but that's because they weren't we weren't taught the same thing. Like the things that our fathers told us was disrespectful is common behavior now. And so maybe there's a bridge that needs to be gapped in order for us to have these expectations. Until then, you have to set those boundaries and be clear about it. But if I'm setting my boundaries and I'm being clear and that just comes off as rude, I don't believe I'm the problem.
Yeah, just don't be rude, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny and not trying to kick a dead horse here. But how do I set boundaries without coming off as rude? Do not intentionally be rude, right? I can't be like perspective and perception matters, and I can't control your perceptors. That's just what the truth of the matter is. So if I'm not intentionally rude and I have no malice when setting boundaries, then me coming off rude may be like Gaddy said, that might be your perception of what's going on, probably because I'm setting boundaries. That might be the problem. It may not necessarily be the way it's delivered or the fact that I am being assertive when talking about boundaries, right? Assertive is not bad, right? So it may just be the fact that I'm setting boundaries and you may not have been accustomed or been in a relationship with somebody established boundaries.
And some people don't like people being assertive or direct. Some people, oh, you were rude when you said no. I just told you what you weren't going to do to me or how you weren't going to treat me. And they think, oh, you can't tell. Yeah. Oh, I can tell you what you're going to do with me. I can't tell you what you're going to do with nobody else. But to me, and people think that's rude when you are direct. People think it's rude when you're straightforward. But they always say they want somebody straightforward until they meet somebody that's straightforward who knows who they are. So when a person is direct, take them for what they say. Take them for their word. That way, when they're setting the boundary, say, "Hey, don't do this to me." They saying it in a nice fashion. Whether they say it nice and passive and sweet, or they, "Hey, don't do that no more. I'm letting you know. Don't cross over this threshold no more, or else something comes on the other side of that, and I'm trying to keep you on this side. So if you stay on this side of the boundary, we cool. But once you do it again, it's like you have no respect for the relationship because you've shown that my boundaries and what I have to say adds no relational value to you because you disrespected it. So when a person speaks a certain thing, that's for them and for you two to stay in right relationship. It's not against you, it's actually for you guys to stay together so that you won't offend them. So if a person is thinking it's rude, then that person should be the one looking within and saying, man, what is wrong with me that I look at this as rude simply by that person speaking their mind or saying how they want to be treated. Next question. What steps should I take when someone crosses a boundary that I've already communicated? Backhand. Nah.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Um, Again, this is where the conversation comes in at, right? This is where we are completely honest and upfront about the boundaries. Like we talked about those boundaries. You knew the boundaries. You knew what it was. So at some point, I need to understand something. Was this like a bad decision that you made, which we tend to call mistakes, or was this intentional? Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of times we tend to overlook overlook some things, right? No, I'm not going to put the hands on 'em. I'm long past the land of the hands ministry, but I'm just saying. I think it's important for us. Gaddis said he's not. I think it's important for us to sit down and have an honest conversation about the boundary that we both understood existed and how did we get to the point of violating the boundary. I don't necessarily need to know the why. The why, I think sometimes we get caught up in that in the why. But I want to know, how did we go from understanding into violation? That part is better for me because if something changed, then this is the time to talk about it. This is the time to let me know what changed in your eyes based upon this relationship. But if nothing changed, now I just need to want to know how. How do we move from here to here? Did was something more enticing in this particular moment? Whatever. I don't know. But I think it's important for us to have a conversation to reestablish the boundaries that we previously established, or if we need to, adjust some boundaries, which I mean that's a whole other conversation. But if we need to make some minor adjustments to boundaries, let's do that as well. But definitely have the conversation after the boundaries have been violated.
Question in the chat. Miss Keys said, "Can boundaries be weaponized?"
I'm interested in the response to this question.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go first.
I know I mentioned, but I'm really interested in your responses on this one because I'm kind of torn. I don't know.
Tell me why you're torn. I want to hear this one. That's what I'm interested in right there.
because I think sometimes, and I know, Sister Keys to Keys Realty will never do this, but I feel like sometimes the word weaponized is weaponized, right? Like we use that term, you weaponizing your boundaries because I want to cross them, because I don't want you to have boundaries. So I think sometimes we get to a place or not sometimes, we live in a generation of people to where we believe it's right because I did it and have no care for how that affects the other person. I have my boundaries for a reason, and I shouldn't have to articulate why I have these boundaries. Oh, it's trauma based. And what if it is? If you are not willing to deal with that boundaries, well, have a nice day. Right? If my boundaries are too much, then we don't have to be in a relationship. I think sometimes we forget that. You might be a cool people or a cool person, don't mean I have to be in a relationship with you because I just think you're cool. I'm going to cross your. Sometimes we know I'm going to cross your boundary. If that's just who I am, then you knew before you crossed it, you was going to cross it. But on the other side, I don't know why, but I just feel like someone can some people can habitually set boundaries to control people, not to protect themselves or not for this, because they want to control the behavior of people around them.
Give me an example.
Exists. So
give me an example.
I'll give you an example.
You see this, Ms. Robin. See, this is what I'm be talking about right here.
See, but an example of that, we were speaking on it earlier. But sometimes I've seen where a husband has said, "You can't question me on that." It's like you trying to set a boundary on what I can question you on because you are trying to manipulate the person. You trying to control the outcome of whatever. You trying to save your high and everything. So sometimes you trying to set boundaries to manipulate the person, to punish the person or whatever. So you saying, okay, we can talk about everything else, but then boom, oh, I ain't talking about that. You ain't talking about that.
You said husband, right?
Husband, wife, whomever it is in relationship.
Did they magically get married?
Huh?
Has nothing to do with them setting the boundary though.
Yeah, no. That didn't answer my question. Did they magically get married?
Not unless it was with Lucky Charms in there.
Right, exactly. So that means that there was a period of time that they got to know one another, right?
I knew he was going there. I don't know why you feel for
that
it.
Being said, in getting to know each other, those boundaries probably were pre-established. Probably. In most cases, the way that we do stuff, 2 months, 3 months, let's get married. Nah, probably not. But again, that's why you don't rush to the doggone altar when it comes down to get married. But if you take the time to get to know the person, the boundaries should have been established in the get to know you phase so that you know what you're getting yourself into in relationship. So if that person had established that you can't question me about nothing before they got married, you still walk the aisle, I want to hear the complaints. You knew what you was getting into. You owned it. You decided to do it. So if you decided to do it, you accepted that as a boundary.
That's an if though.
So you don't think people switch up? I think some people switch up. They hold their boundaries to get. And
I don't even think that's a hole in the boundary. I think that's you trying to save your hind parts.
Well, I mean, You know,
Well,
six in one hand, half a dozen the other. Switch up, save yourself, whatever it looks like. Do I believe that people create boundaries based upon the situations that they find themselves in? Sure, absolutely. But if that's the type of person that you're dealing with, you knew that person had that potential back here because they were switching up long before that. That's what I'm saying.
You see that?
Hey man, I got it.
we were blinded by the
Yeah.
I tell you what,
beauty.
show up tomorrow morning. We're gonna talk about that.
Yep, you muted. Look, want to do it?
Show up tomorrow morning. We're gonna talk about that.
I think you hit your mute.
No, I'm not muted.
Nah. You can't hear him?
He got his boundaries up. But it's hearing boundaries. But that's kind of like my point. But I think I'm with you, Gaddy, on the weaponized piece. I am struggling with that because boundaries, if we understand what they really are, boundaries actually make the relationship better. It doesn't keep anybody outside of anything. Right? I say that part again. Boundaries make the relationship better. So if we establish them correctly and do it right, they are not weaponized. They can't be weaponized. They're there to protect the relationship. The fence that you have around your house is there to protect everything within the boundaries of that house. It is your first line of defense. That's why I'm saying a while ago, people talk about boundaries, but they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. They're looking at self-protective measures, right? But yet they're in relationships. Okay, sure. That sounds great. But if you understand how to set it and what it really means, it actually makes it better for the other person when we set it the right way.
Properly, yes. Gaddy, you stuck? I think Gaddy's stuck.
That's that boundary, bro. That's that boundary. I'm trying to tell you. This is what happened. We don't know how to set boundaries.
Hey, you available man ain't so available right now. Nah. Anyway, next question. How do I handle someone who tries to guilt trip, manipulate, or twist the conversation?
Man, again, this is one of those things, right? Guilt trip, manipulate, you know, how we say gaslight, all this other great stuff. Again, being able to have an honest and authentic conversation is important, right? Being able to address what you are observing in the conversation is important so that they can, because you got to realize some people may not be aware. Sorry, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. Some people may not necessarily be aware that they are a chronic manipulator. Some people go through their whole life just manipulating their way through it. There are different. I haven't gone over this, and I will at a later point in time. But there are different personality types to where some people are just manipulators. That's what they do. And so, how do I have a conversation with that person? Honestly, openly, upfront, no hesitation. Tell them exactly what I'm observing. I don't have to call them names or anything of that nature. I may even approach it by asking them a question. Hey, man, do you know that X, Y, and Z, right? Was that your intent? Oh, no, it was okay. So now they're aware. So if they're aware, now they have a responsibility to do something about their awareness. Will they do something? Well, if they're a chronic manipulator, probably not. However, if we're connected, you know, some sort, and I'm going to use the workplace relationship because, again, I can't be in relationship with people who are chronic manipulators. But if it's a workplace thing, every time I see it, bring it to their attention. Eventually, something will set in. I don't have to be aggressive. I don't have to back them in the corner, anything of that nature. Just have the honest conversation with the person about what you observe, not about what you feel, what you observe. And I think that's the key. Just like they said, you know, for those of you who are old enough to remember Dragnet, stick to the facts.
I ain't old enough. Nah. How do I handle someone who tries to guilt trip, manipulate, or twist the conversation? I think you have to put them up in their face. So if you're trying this, I'm gonna recite it right back to you. I'm gonna say it so like make sure you understand what you're saying to let you know that, hey, this ain't getting past me just because you feel a certain way. Because sometimes people will try to guilt trip you by their triggers, guilt trip you by their hurts and things that happened in the past, and expect for you to bow down simply because that affected them or whatever. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the conversation. Whereas if you bring it to their attention, now we got to say, hey, this is a problem because you're trying to manipulate the conversation to go your way simply by bringing this up, simply by bringing this into not into question, but into it's like in the evidence or whatever. No, this has absolutely nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with your feelings. This is something you feel a certain type of way about, and now you're looking at it as a get out of jail free card. No, we're gonna deal with what's on the table, and then this right here, I'm letting you know I see it, so you won't be able to bring this back into question again. Let's see. Next question.
I think we already answered that question. I think that was a question that B Sweet asked. Very similar to.
Definitely. That's not last though, is it? No. What's after this one?
That's it. That's the last one.
That's it. Man, I like this conversation because I think it was some things, especially when it comes to conversation, should be put on the lowest level so that you don't have to think about this and this. It's right here. It's plain and simple, easy to read. It's like one of those books that you read at bedtime. Easy to read. It's not so scholastic that you got to go look up certain words and things of that nature, but it's something that you can say, man, I need to implement this into my life. So as I or Gaddy or Coach was saying anything, it's like, man, this is regular talk where these things I can add it in my life that they can build how I communicate with my loved ones or anyone that I'm in relationship with, to where now when we communicate, we actually communicate and we aren't just talking. What say you, Coach?
I agree. I think we go through life a lot of times, and you see it when it comes down to communication. You see it when it comes down to relationships, what have you. And you're not necessarily taught that at a younger age. In fact, a lot of times you pick up a lot of bad habits because you've seen Big Mama them talking and so forth and so on. And Big Mama cussed out everybody that came in the house, making too much noise and leaving her door open and letting all that air out the house. So you pick up those things, and then you go out and hang out with your friends and all kind of stuff. And so you grow up with all of these bad communication habits. And then you get into the workplace, and then all kind of other stuff. So it's like learning how to become a better communicator. And I have this old saying, I'm sure somebody else said it before. Everybody think there's a good communicator until they meet a good communicator. That's the known fact. You recognize that, oh my goodness, I have not, I've been like controlling every conversation I've been a part of. Yeah, you have been. So stop trying to be so important. Be quiet and listen. Listen more than you talk. That's the important thing. That's why you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. We've been saying that for years, but very few people do it, right? In the space of relationships, some of us need to learn how to listen, not just hear, listen. Be able to regurgitate something somebody say back to you. Instead of just regurgitating it, paraphrase it, summarize it, whatever. Show them that not only did you hear what they said, but you processed it and then changed the words around so that you show them that you actually understand it. So, yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. Welcome back, bro.
Man, I don't know what's going on tonight.
It's the boundaries, dog.
Man, Roland changed his lenses. Now we can see him clear, and then mine start acting up. He sent all his bad juju over here to mine. How do I maintain the relationship after the hard conversation? Make sure that the conversation met the goal of what the conversation was supposed to. I think this question becomes hard when we don't look at conversation, because do most of us know what a conversation looks like, or a hard conversation looks like when it met the goal? Or have we been around mature enough people that we saw a conversation meet the end goal? Because I'll be honest with you, a lot of times people feel like when two parties get into a discussion, the person that was wrong, if they admit they're wrong and they come and they apologize or whatever the case may be, and they correct themselves, that they got punked. Mm-hmm. And that's the image people come to. Like, I'm not going to give in to what you said because you're not going to punk me. You're not going to make me look like this in front of. But people don't realize that that's a sign of maturity. You didn't come and say, do this again, I'm gonna knock you. And I'm like, no, we had a conversation. I recognized and I made an adjustment. That's called accountability. I recognized and I did the work to correct it because the relationship was the most important part. But because we don't know what that looks like, you know, we only know argue because we think like when we were kids, like, oh, I used to meet my best friend, we're fighting, we'd be friends again tomorrow. But then we fight again. The reason why we kept fighting because we was fighting about the same thing over and over again, right? Because we were kids and we didn't know how to have a conversation and how to meet an end goal. We're adults. We should know how to have a conversation and meet the end goal. And I think that shows not only maturity, but that shows how much both parties care about this relationship. And so that in and of itself should be the answer to me.
I think to add to what he is saying, um, it is a very easy thing to do, but it's more difficult than we can imagine. How do I maintain the relationship after a hard conversation? By determining that the relationship was worth maintaining before the hard conversation came about.
Hmm.
If I made this decision way back here before hard conversation became available, then the decision and the commitment to the relationship was made. When I get into hard conversation, when the reason why conversation is hard is because I have a commitment to myself about being right. So who's more important, me or the relationship? It should be the relationship if I committed to the relationship. But a lot of times we get in a hard conversation and we fight for our little piece of the pie, right? We go and get all of the worldly logic. Don't let nobody silence you. You need to be heard. Don't all this other great stuff. Stop all that. All that stuff is actually it's actually there to tear the relationship apart, right? That's why I said stop trying to be so important. Listen more than you talk. If what I have to say isn't so important, but when I do say whatever it is I'm going to say, I'm actually responding to what you say, isn't that called a conversation? That's where we mess up at. We get to the point we're just spewing perspectives. She said this, he said that. And if you pay close attention, neither one of those statements are connected whatsoever.
Hmm.
There lies the problem. Make the decision before the hard conversation happens.
Man, you should have said that one. Hey, like everything, every show, every movie, every podcast, there comes a point where it has to end. And it only ends for 7 days because we'll be back on next week, I think. But right now, we are finishing up with our final words and we going to close this thing out. We going Gaddy, Coach, and then myself, and then we'll bid you adieu.
I believe in this community, we talk very often about relationships. We talk a lot about communication. And every time we have this conversation, we find that it's still empowering, that it's still impactful. We find, and we know this because we see it in the chat. We're still engaged. We still have questions that are unanswered every time we have a conversation like this, um, which means we should now recognize the importance of it and the importance of relationship and the importance of community, that we should want to do the work now. If you haven't done the work, I think we have to get past this mindset of I've made it, I'm mature enough, I'm smart enough, I can handle it, right? Because I believe everyone believes that about themselves. But if we take the approach that I'm forever learning and I'm forever growing, I'm forever maturing, we will never miss an opportunity to go and do the work, to go and learn. One of the most interesting things that I saw, one of the greatest shooters or the greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry, throws up 100 shots every day at practice. But we think he got the answer. He's the guy, right? Continue. So do the work. Let's continue to understand how to become better communicators, how to become better emotionally intelligent, how to become better relationally, and then how to grow so that we can so that we can become better for each other. My self growth should better my relationships and my community. That's all I got.
The title of this conversation is Handling Difficult Conversations. What to do when someone misbehaves? Well, I will ask the question differently. What to do when that someone is you, right? I think that becomes a thing for us to consider. What happens when someone takes a mirror and put in my face and show me my behavior objectively? Do I get defensive? Do I hold firm to my posture because I want to be right? I need to be right. Every place I've been always told me that I was great. My mom and daddy never told me anything that showed me that I behaved in a particular manner that is not conducive for a relationship. Do I have the capacity to yield to the objective information that I'm receiving about myself? See, I believe difficult conversations create amazing opportunities. See, I look at things differently. Conflict creates opportunities for a relationship to become better. It creates depth and breadth. A tree gets bigger and stronger because of the wind and the storms. So if you look at it from that perspective of relationships become stronger because of the storms that they go through. So do we have the ability to go through a storm, weather the storm, and become bigger and better and stronger for each other so that we can actually understand and show other people that just because difficult times happen, it does not necessarily mean it's the end, mean that it's the end. We can actually overcome the difficulty and move back into the space of harmony so that we can continue to move forward. And that's my final thought.
Handling difficult conversations. I think that's one of those things where first, before you even start to think about handling a difficult conversation, you need to handle the conversations in here and in here. Because until you can regulate yourself, you aren't even ready to handle or even attempt to attack uh, conversations that are difficult, because you always lean on the side of being right. You always lean on the side of, I gotta have my way. So when we're looking at difficult conversations, first do the work within, and then you can actually have the conversation to where you realize, like, man, as I think Coach was saying, that mirror is there where I can see where I am, not where I was, where I am, because I'm not perfect in this. I'm not right all the time. So sometimes there has to be a checks and balance to say, man, okay, let me look in the mirror to see where I'm wrong or where I could have been taken wrong. That way, I'm not looking at it as I'm up here, because when the difficult conversation comes, am I looking to say, what do I do when someone misbehaves? Or as Coach said, am I misbehaving? Because sometimes it can be me misbehaving, not that I'm pouting or complaining or whining, but I'm misbehaving in avoiding the conversation, in avoiding the honesty, in avoiding what needs to take place so that we can either grow our separate ways or grow together so that the relationship can flourish. So I appreciate this conversation, and my brothers, that's all I had today. Thank y'all for showing up once again. You added much value in the chat, and we love it. We want to make sure that you know what's going on in the community. On Tuesdays, got Coach's Corner. On Fridays, you have us here. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 Eastern, we will be right back here. Right back here. I ain't got no glasses on because those glasses been bothering me all night because I can't see out of them for some reason. I got to get my other ones again. But this was a great conversation. I appreciate you, brothers. I appreciate Nick D for holding us down. And until next time. Matter of fact, Sunday, who is it on?
One of y'all.
Okay, there we go. Sunday on TikTok. We'll be on Gaddy's platform. So make sure you show up, because I'm sure he'll have something that is definitely mind-boggling for us to attack and challenge us to be better on each and every day. So until next time, see y'all later.
Bye.